he wasn't supposed to live. In 1321, 4 friars were killed at Thane, and 1 man survived. Not because he fought, not because he ran, but because he wasn't there at that exact moment. And his name was Jordan Katala. And from that day, his life stopped being ordinary and turned into a story that people would start to whisper about. Jordan Katala had travelled with the 4 friars towards India, shared their road, shared their danger, and then, on the day everything went wrong at Thane, he had been away on a mission nearby, just far enough to survive, just close enough to return, to silence and the smoke and the news that Thomas of Tolentino, James of Padua, Demetrius of Tiflis, and Peter of Siena had been killed. History would remember them as the Martyrs of Tana, and it would remember Jordan as the man who came back too late. Most people would have gone home after that. Jordan didn't. Alone, shaken but undeterred, he continued his mission. He went forward. He pushed deeper into India, carrying their memory like a weight he couldn't put down. He lived among people whose customs were entirely different from anything he had known in Europe. He watched temples rise where churches did not exist. He saw rituals that confused and shocked him. He heard languages he could not understand and saw animals he only ever heard about in stories. Moving through ports that rode with sailors and markets that smelt of spice and salt, where merchants traded silk, gems, and rumors from the edge of the world, until he reached places like Bharuch near the Narmada River, where it felt like the whole planet arrived by ship. He wrote letters back to fellow Dominicans in Persia describing the challenges of mission work, local peoples, and fledgling Christian communities, letters filled with both struggle and hope. But it wasn't just mission reports that defined Jordan. Between 1329 and 1338, he did something bold. He wrote everything down, not like a tourist, but like someone trying to trap an entire world on paper before it slipped away. He composed one of medieval Europe's most remarkable travel works, a book called Mirabilia Descripta, The Wonders Described. But this was not a book of fantasies. It was one of the earliest serious European attempts to describe India and the East as real places, filled with real people, real beliefs, real landscapes, and real contradictions. He wrote about elephants, enormous intelligent creatures that seemed to him like living fortresses. He described strange fruits, spices, and trees unknown in Europe. He spoke of colorful birds, powerful rivers, war elephants, and crocodiles, strange birds, and giant bats, forests of pepper, coconut palms that gave water and oil, and climates that swung from burning heat to crushing monsoon rains, and cities that thrived on trade from across the oceans. He wrote about merchants from Arabia, Persia, and Africa, all meeting in Indian ports that buzzed with life, noise, and commerce. But Jordan did not only describe nature, he described people and evil practices. He wrote about Hindu customs, about sacred cows treated with deep reverence, about rituals and temples filled with smoke, color, and chanting. He described the Parsis and their fire temples and their unusual burial practices. He calls as evil or shocking He writes about communities he calls fire worshippers and their strict ideas of purity, including leaving dead bodies exposed to birds rather than burying or burning them. He writes about Hindu idol processions and intense rituals, about how sacred cattle were treated and how harming an ox could be punished severely. And then he describes something that would have stunned his European readers, the practice we now call sati, where a widow would be expected to die on her husband's funeral pyre, and he describes it as something he witnessed as part of the world he was trying to understand. Not a rumor, not a myth, but a real and terrifying custom that made him feel like he was watching a society run by rules he could not accept. He was shocked and horrified and made sure that Europe would know about it. Through his eyes, medieval Europe began to see India not as a land of pure legend, but as a complex ancient civilization, rich, strange, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying. What made Jordan's writing so powerful was not what he described, but how he described it. He did not write like a conqueror. He wrote like a witness, someone standing in awe, confusion, and curiosity before a world far bigger than one he had grown up in. Eventually, after years in the East, Jordan returned west, carrying not gold, not trophies, but knowledge. He traveled back through Persia and the great trade routes, and finally reached Europe. There, his experience made him stand out. He was no longer just a friar. He was a man who had seen the world beyond the edge of the map. In 1329, Pope John XXII made a historic decision. He appointed Jordan Katala as the Bishop of Quilon, modern-day Kollam, on the Malabar coast of India. This was no small honor. It made Jordan the first Latin Catholic bishop in India, and Quilon became the first official Catholic diocese in the subcontinent. It was a symbol that Europe was no longer just imagining the East. It was now permanently connected to it. Jordan returned to India once more, this time not only as a traveler or a missionary, but as a bishop. He worked among ancient Christian communities that had existed in India long before the Europeans arrived. He tried to build bridges between cultures, between traditions, between worlds that barely understood each other. He lived in a land of spice winds, ocean ports, and endless cultural crossings, far from the stone castles of his birth. And then, history grows quiet. Some traditions say Jordan Katala was eventually killed, possibly martyred, near the region of Bombay. Others say he simply disappeared from the records, his final days lost to time, like many medieval lives. His ending is wrapped in uncertainty. Jordan's words did not fade away. After his book was written, Europe's curiosity about Asia only grew. Travelers like Odoric of Pordenone and later Niccolo di Conti added to this growing knowledge. And centuries later, when Vasco da Gama sailed to India and Saint Francis Xavier came as a missionary, Europe already carried stories of the East that pioneers like Jordan Katala had helped begin. His legacy lived on. His book survived. His descriptions survived. And through them, Jordan Katala changed how Europe saw the East, not as a myth, but a real living world. He is remembered as a missionary, an explorer, and the first Catholic bishop of the East Indies, a man whose words guided those who came after him. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this story, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more journeys into the forgotten history. Thanks for watching.